Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
All right, you're very welcome along to Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. You can follow the Twitter account at HRI Racing, and the hashtag is every racing moment. Johnny, it's been a while. How are you?
Well, good to have you back.
There you go.
Yeah, missed a great weekend at the Curragh. I thought I was there for the Derby, and
Did you put your fancy glad rags on? I think you're still in them.
yeah. Changed, I think, once since, right? But yeah, it was the thing about the Curragh though is like Royal Ascot. You know, there's all the protocol and all that. The Curragh, and it's like an Irish thing as well. The Curragh is just a mixture, and I think Irish race meetings. I think that's one thing the Curragh struggled with, where it had this kind of people thought of it as a little bit like Ponce or something, and it's not. It didn't feel like that. It felt like a really good day. I met loads of people I knew from various walks of life, and the queues were good. Like, it was busy, but it wasn't. Obviously a lot of problems with staff at the moment, but there's a great vantage point as well from the stand to actually watch the racing, which is important. And there's been a lot of negativity about it, but I felt like meeting people from, as I said, all walks of sport and life on Saturday, that they were like, give this place a chance, because it is our showcase flat headquarters, and it was great racing as well. It was just a very enjoyable day.
Yeah.
More enjoyable for Jamie Powell, obviously, the weekend.
Well, he's with us now, so we'll get to him. Jamie, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hey lads, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, you obviously did have a good weekend last weekend.
Yeah, I've definitely had worse weekends anyway.
You've just done a really good run of form with a bunch of different trainers at the moment. So for anybody who doesn't know, you're an apprentice at the moment with Johnny Murtagh. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm signed on to Johnny. Yeah, I'm in his six mornings a week there. Yeah.
Right, and at the same time, you're also able to ride for other trainers, and it's with both Johnny and a bunch of other trainers. You're banging in the winners at the minute.
Yeah, it's not been a bad year so far. Anyway, I've had 7 winners this year, and it's better than last year at the moment. Anyway, which is great. So look, hopefully we can ride a few more.
What's your record for Johnny Feen?
Oh, I'm not too sure. It's not bad though.
If Johnny Feen books you as a jockey, that's a good sign. Is there a shrewder man of few words in racing, Jamie?
No, look, to be fair to me, he is very good at getting horses ready for the big day, and you wouldn't say much, and he'd be very laid back, but he's well able to train them.
The progress of Anna Sire has been remarkable, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, and the same with Urban Oasis as well, another horse of his that, look, he starts on a low mark and they build their way up through, and look, he's been very lucky with them 2 horses anyway.
How did your relationship actually commence? Because obviously I think it's very interesting for a punter and for a trainer when you're trying to eke out, particularly in like the likes of the Rockingham, you're trying to eke out an extra few pound and you book a jockey who's young and able to claim. Did he obviously saw some talent in you from an early stage?
Maybe, I'm not really sure. I just got a call off my agent Kevin Ryan to say that I was going to be riding his horse Urban Oasis the first day, and look, it kind of went from there. Then he won 3 in a row, and he's given me plenty of opportunities on other horses that he's trained, and look, it's been going good so far anyway.
And just for anybody who's in any doubt, after the weekend, Johnny Feen said, Jamie's ridden 5 winners for me now from 8 rides with 2 seconds and a 4th. He's doing well for me at the moment anyway.
He said at the moment anyway. That's such a Johnny Feen comment. Like, that strike rate is stratospheric, and it's like he's doing all right. He's doing right at the moment.
Not carried away.
I think he's a fascinating character, Johnny Feen, Jamie.
No, he can be, but look, he's been great to me, and he's given me some great opportunities and 2 of the biggest winners of my career. So look, I don't have a bad word to say about it.
So Johnny, tell us about the Rockingham handicap and why is this a big race and why is it important?
Yeah,
where do they go on?
One of the big sprint handicaps in Ireland, and I suppose traditionally Irish sprinters, we've had good years, more bad than good. Sprinting isn't necessarily a big thing in Ireland, but the Rockingham is a race of a lot of prestige, and Jamie's ride in the race was coming in after, what did Anna Sire get for the previous day? It was a big height, Jamie, anyway.
It was, yeah. She won a big handicap up the Curragh at the start before, but look, she had a low enough weight going into that day anyway.
Did you, tell us how the race panned out, because you came up the stand side, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I was drawn stand side, and look, he just said kind of jump and keep it simple, but we went slow enough. She travelled away lovely, and look, on a day like that when there's a bit of rain and a bit of juice in the ground, it's always a big advantage to come up the stand side in the Curragh, you know.
For the likes of Johnny Fiensville, that's a big race to win, because he's not going to he's going to struggle to get the very good horses. So to win a Rockingham is definitely a feather in your cap.
Okay, that was your second win on the day, I think, or certainly over the weekend anyway, because your first win was in the Sherry Fitz Country Homes Handicap for Kevin Coleman.
It was, yeah. That was the race before, actually. Yeah, I won the race before for Kevin, and then went out and won the Rockingham for John Feen. So
that's a good half hour's work.
Definitely, absolutely, you could have worse.
And do you everybody who comes on is always very cautious, because everybody points out that racing is a very dangerous game, but also at the end of your career, if you win 10% of your races, you're doing bloody well. So nobody gets too carried away. But I think you're probably allowed to get carried away for half an hour after you've won 2 races in a row at the Curragh Derby weekend. Did you get a little bit carried away?
Not really, I had no more rides for the day. But look, if you've a ride after riding the winner, that's your main concern after that. The race you just won is behind you, and it's on to the next one. That's the way you have to be in racing. You can't get too high and you can't get too low either,
Yeah.
Does confidence kind of breed confidence? Do you go into the Rockingham just feeling that extra percent kind of more bullish about things?
I think so anyway. Yeah, look, you can do it, and when you're riding winners, you're good enough to be riding winners, and when you're riding with confidence, things just seem to happen a bit easier. It's definitely a big help.
What do you make of the standard of young riders? I mean, it's not like you're overly experienced to talk about it, but it is generally said, Jamie, that this generation is just very, very strong.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, there's plenty of lads in the weigh room at the moment anyway who are very good riders and probably going to have good careers, but look, the pony racing is a big help. There's lots of lads coming through the pony racing ranks there that are riding on the track now, and they're already polished and they know what's going on. But look, there's definitely a good bunch of riders at the moment. Yeah.
That's just said time and time again on the show, the education that the pony racing gives you in terms of you're almost ready made when you start riding horses.
Yeah, look, I had no experience with pony racing, unfortunately. It would have been a big help to me, but you can see the likes of lads that are just starting off that have ridden pony racing. They're definitely not 10-pound claimers or 7-pound claimers. They know what they're doing, and it's a big help to them.
Well, actually, on that then, what's the difference in the likes of you joining the apprentice ranks without that background versus lads who, as you say, it's almost like they've come through minor football?
Yeah, it just takes a bit more time to kind of get used to everything. It took me probably a bit too long to get used to everything, but it's just different. When the lads are doing pony racing, they're used to being around other lads with the horses and everything. You know what I mean? But for me, it was just a big shock when I started off. It does take a while to kind of get used to it, but when you've a few rides pony racing, you kind of have an idea of what's going on.
And roughly how many rides have you had so far?
I think I had about 200 so far, I think.
So where do you track your progress? Does it take 100 rides to get used to it? Does it take more? Does it take a lot of Dundalk and the all-weather? How do you are you still kind of improving now, or when do you feel I'm actually getting there?
No, I think it takes about kind of 20-30 rides just to kind of get used to everything and what's going on. But look, you still have to improve every day. Every day you're riding, you learn something, but after, as I said, about 20 or 30 rides, you kind of start to know what's going on in a race. For the first 20 rides, it's all just happening, and you're just part of the race. But after that, you can kind of start seeing who you're following and everything like that in a race. But it just takes a bit getting used to.
You had your first ride in 2019, is that right?
Yeah, up the Curragh for Mr. Ox on a horse called Brave Display. Yeah.
Right. How were your nerves ahead of that? What do you remember the build up to that? Because there's a video of you getting a lesson at race, and I'll talk to you about race in a moment. I'm fairly sure it's at race anyway. You were getting a coaching lesson from Warren O'Connor, and there's just footage of you the night before getting a lesson, and you think of the journey of the kid on that horse to now the person who's sitting here talking to us 3 years later, who's gone through a whole heap of things in the 200 odd rides that you've had since. How much of that week and the build up to that do you remember?
Plenty of it, yeah. I remember Mr. Ox telling me that I was going to be riding the horse, and look, I was over the moon. It's my local track and all, but it was just excitement, more than nerves at the start. And kind of then the day of the race, you're a bit nervous, but look, once you get the leg up, it's business then, and the nerves kind of go out the window.
And how long was it before you got your first winner?
70 rides maybe. It was a very long time coming, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of like footballers kind of can develop like a little bit later. What you're saying, Jamie, it's not abnormal, but at the same time, when you see like Jamie Powell claiming 10 like after 70 rides, people almost do start kind of half writing you off as well, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, you nearly start doubting yourself as well, thinking you can't do it. But once you get the first winner, you get that bit of confidence, as we spoke about earlier. And things just start happening then. But it did take me a long time to get my first winner, but look, things are going okay at the moment anyway.
Like that must be an amazing feeling, because some people achieve it quite early, but after 70, like I don't know how many like near misses you'd had at that stage, but that must be some feeling.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it was a massive relief for me anyway. And it was taking a long time to come, but it was nearly even better when it did come then, because I'd waited so long for it. But no, it was definitely a great day.
That was Johnny Murtagh's horse in Bellewstown, was it?
It was 2-year-old, yeah, three bags full, yeah.
So interesting, Jamie was a 70 race maiden, and I think the horse was back from like 6s into 13 to 8 or something all day. So it's like, it just shows that the market realised that Jamie hadn't ridden a winner, but like it wasn't Jamie's fault.
No.
He was good enough, and you kick on from there, I guess.
Well, can I just ask you?
That's it, yeah.
Do you look back on anything you did in that time that you would go back and go, I could have short-circuited that, I could have sped things up if I'd done things differently? Or is that actually just the truth about how hard the game is?
No, a bit of both, really. Starting in Johnny Murtagh's was a big help for me, because he kind of got me into the racing zone. Then, when I was starting off, I was kind of just being part of the race, as I said. But Johnny was a big help to me, and helping me, how to get a posse in a race and who to be following and everything like that. But it's a bit of both at the same time. Look, there's so many good riders that are riding the best horses, but when you do get the chance, you have to take them. And unfortunately, it took me a bit long, but no, it came in the end.
How did the Murtagh thing come about then?
Sorry?
How did the Murtagh link come about?
I was with Mr. John Ox, and when he was retiring, he asked Niall McCullough where do you think the best place for me to go would be, and Niall said to Johnny Murtagh's, so Mr. Ox kind of organised all that for me, and Johnny was happy enough to have me, and look, I haven't looked back since.
That sounds exactly like something John Ox would do, alright, kind of looking after you despite the fact that he's gone out himself.
Absolutely, yeah. No, look, he was an absolute gentleman. Couldn't have a bad word to say about him, and he helped me plenty. Look, he put me into a good yard, and look, I'll be forever ever grateful for that.
What's it like in Murtagh's then, and how good is Ben Cohen? I think I was talking to Ger about, like, I haven't been racing as much as I was racing, Jamie, and one of the things about it was, obviously at a race meeting, 90 to 95% of your day is spent talking or doing something that isn't involved in looking at the sport, because the sport is like the rocking game takes place over a minute, so you end up talking to a lot of people, and a lot of people are saying to me, this Ben Cohen is the next big thing. So what do you make of him?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I agree with that. He's only young himself, but he's a very level head, and he's very mature and a great rider as well, and he'd be very good to me. He'd be riding work with him in the mornings, he'd be giving me advice, but he's a great rider, and I think he will probably go far in the game. He
got Shartash up literally on the line in the 2-year-olds 6 furlong race, and I was reminded of when we did the feature of himself and his cousin and Gavin Ryan, Andrew Slattery, Gavin Ryan and him, when we did a feature at Fairhouse just before their leaving cert, and Ben was saying that he may or may not have written down his name on one of the leaving cert forms. He'd forgotten. I asked him what day was the leaving cert starting the following week, and he told me like Wednesday, but it was actually Friday or vice versa. He didn't even know what day the leaving cert was starting. I never met somebody as laid back as him. That seems to kind of come true in his races as well, Jamie, just the way he rides.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, you see him in the weigh room on the big days like Derby weekend, and he's very laid back, and he'd never get too high or low either, But look, he's a great lad, and I get on very well with him, and he's been a big help to me since I went to Johnny's.
And I'm always interested, right? So Johnny Murtagh's one of the world's great jockeys for a long period of time, and then is turning into be a great trainer as well. It's very rare that you're able to do more than one high profile, difficult sports job. To be able to do two is fairly remarkable. When you're obviously Johnny's training, right, and his job is to train the horses to get them right, but you as a jockey are trying to learn from him as well. So how do you learn from a trainer who's obviously most interested in making sure the horses are fit, but who also has a vested interest in making sure that you continue to improve as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Johnny. He's great for helping you out. After the races, if I got the replay up on my phone, he'd look through it with me and kind of tell me where I went right and wrong. And in the mornings, even riding work, he'd be always just giving you little bits of advice. And he was a great jockey. So when he talks, you really do listen. And no, he's been absolutely great for me in my career.
Is that technical stuff like position, body position, when you're using the whip, where your hands are, or is it more kind of mental, like you need to be prepared, you need to be on edge, or what bits of advice are they?
Kind of a bit of both. He kind of have you on the ball really. You need to be sharp in Ireland, and getting your position in a race early is very important. And then who to be following and the likes of that. He's just be helping you sharpen up, and he's great for watching back the races, as I said, and telling you where you went right and wrong.
I think it's I think it's something, Jamie, that they could even do more. Like even I was looking back the head on of Colin Keane and Westover, like, and it wasn't really commented on, but like Westover has a bad tendency to veer left in his races, and Colin Keane was so pronounced with his left hand drive and his position in the race in terms of tactically. Like, is he somebody you'd look up to as kind of the main guy to sort of learn from, or?
Absolutely, yeah. Look, Colin rarely puts a foot wrong, and he's another lad that's very good for if you had any advice. But look, he's a great rider. He's very strong, and 9 times out of 10 he's in the right position. So if you're following Colin in a race, you're not going wrong.
I think there's so much going on in the race, Welger. It's not a case of like Galway are playing Limerick on Sunday and Limerick should win, like, and it's as simple as that. And there are some little nuances in races. So much is happening in terms of like how even confident the jockey is going into the race. Like, does he lose the race at the stalls? Does he go too fast? Does his horse itself not perform? Like, and I don't know. There's so much going on, I guess, in your head, Jamie, in that race.
That's it, yeah. Look, you go out with a plan every time you're riding, but once the stall's open, you kind of just have to improvise, and you can go to plan B or C very quickly. But
how often does the plan A kind of work out? Is it half the time, less than half the time? I mean, you look at Ryan Moore in the Gold Cup, like, I'd say he was at plan E by the end, but still won the race.
That's it, yeah. Look, after going 5 strides from the stalls, you could end up in a completely different position than you planned going out in the race, So before a race, you kind of make these things up in your head that what you want to do, but once the stall's open, you just kind of have to improvise then.
Yeah, I think it's jockey stats is something that is definitely in its infancy in terms of just showing more data in terms of what's going on in races, because it's too binary saying he's
the heart rate. I'd be very interested in that.
Absolutely.
And how do you feel like you're getting better? Are there specific things that you're trying to work on, kind of independently of the advice that you ask of your peers and people who are more experienced, or Johnny or whoever else you have? Like, is it physical fitness? Is it strength? Is it actually just spending time with horses that you think you're going to end up riding in a race, so you know a bit more about them and you're more intimately familiar with how they might respond to pressure? What are you trying to do to improve?
Fitness really is a big thing for jockeys. If you're not fit and you're getting to the 2 furlong pole, and all you can think in your head is, how quick till I can stop pushing, that's not a good sign. But you have to be fit and strong, and when you're fit and strong, that you're not thinking about getting tired, you're just thinking about the race. But look, it's something I really do focus on. I come down to race here with Wayne Middleton. He's a great help to me. I'd be here once or twice a week, every week with him, So look, he's been a great help, and the fitter you are, kind of easier everything else happens,
And what are you doing? Is that pure cardio? Is it weights? What kind of stuff are you doing?
You kind of mix it up a bit, You'd start off with a bit of weights and finish off with cardio. But look, he's great, and he knows what he's doing. He'd make a kind of plan out for you in the day, and he'd go through it with you. But no, he's a great help.
So you finished race in 2019. You're down there again today, I think, handing out an award. Is that right?
Yeah, I was down doing the most improved rider award for this year's graduation. I won it in 2019. So look, Grace kindly asked me to come back and hand it out to the winner this year. So look, it's great to be back.
We had a bit of banter on OTB AM this morning that I'm in the magical turning 40 this year, and it's like one of these moments in your life when you see the 40 balloons in the party, and you're like, oh my God, was that the first time you felt old, when you were actually presenting a prize to young kids?
You're not the same, Johnny. You don't have to answer that, Jamie.
That's just a ladder along the way.
You're totally different.
Did they look up at you as this owl lad, Jamie?
Absolutely, I know. I was only saying to a few of the lads there, it's weird being back. It feels like it was last week I was here receiving the award. But time flies, and the race is great for people starting off riding, and I hopefully all them kids will have a good career in racing.
What's it like race actually?
Great, absolutely great. No, everyone, all the staff and everyone that's involved with it are absolutely lovely, and they're always here to help you. I came into race with not much riding experience, and I learned the basics in here, and it's put me in good stead then for when I went out on yard placement.
Why didn't you have a lot of experience? Was it? Here's a better question. Was it always in your head that you wanted to be a jockey?
No, it wasn't. When I was a little kid, it was, and I kind of fell out of love with the game for a good while, and came back to it then when I was 15 or 16. I'd never sat in a racehorse till I was 17. So when I came to race, it was just kind of learning the basics and learning how to tack up and everything like that. But look, race were great to me, and I couldn't highly recommend it to anyone looking to get into racing.
And was it a straightforward enough? You kind of found race straight away, or how did you end up going there? Because it's not an obvious thing for a lot of people to a lot of people at that age, 15, when they're deciding they want to do something, don't actually know how to go and do it.
Yeah, I was in school and I just done my junior cert, so I was going to go to race for my transition year. My cousin Robert Dolan came to race a couple of years prior to that, so I knew of it through him, and I said I'd come here for my transition year. But when I finished the course, I had the opportunity to get a license out, so I took that opportunity and never looked back.
I think it's possibly the first time ever on a show that a jockey said he or she fell out of love with the game that early. Because what happened, Jamie? Because you can tell us about your background in terms of your breeding for the job, but obviously you had I guess moments in your life where you thought you were going to do something else.
Yeah, look, when I was a little kid, 4 or 5 years of age, I was mad about racing. It was all I'd watch on TV, and I kind of got to 6 or 7, and none of my friends were interested in racing or anything, and it was more kind of soccer and Gaelic, and I just kind of started to veer that way a bit and lost interest in racing really. But Robert, my cousin, was starting to ride a bit and got me interested in it again, but there was a period of my life there for 5 or 6 years that I had no interest in racing and never watched it or anything, but
that's mad.
Luckily when I came here I just got the bug again.
I don't know if people will be familiar, but your dad died very young, but he was a brilliant jockey in his time.
He's definitely a chip off the old block. By the way, that's one thing that I think we have to say.
Are you very familiar with his career? Is that something that you have gone back to and studied and watched videos of, or is that not something that you've done just yet?
Well, yeah, my dad passed away when I was only a baby. I was 4 or 5 months old, but I wouldn't have had any memories of him. But yeah, look, I've looked back through a few of his races and that, the big days. But look, he won the Irish National in 1989 and made the money. It's the big days like that I've seen. I wouldn't be too fond of the rest of his career really. Just the big days. But yeah, look, it was that probably would have been the biggest influence on me not being involved in horses. I'd say if he was still around, it probably would have all been horses. And my life would have been a lot different. But it was just kind of the way it went. My mum just kind of wanted me to be happy. She wasn't pushing me to ride horses or anything. And luckily, when you catch the bug, you can't really get out of it. But no, at the moment, it's going good anyway.
She must have been a great influence on your life.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, she's a great woman. She raised myself and my 2 sisters on her own. So look, she's very strong, and no matter what it was, she always supported me, and she was there to help for everything I needed, dropping me around the place for all sorts, But she's a great woman, and she was with me there at the weekend as well, so she got a good kick out of that.
Ah, that's class.
Yeah, I remember my cousin of mine, our neighbour at home, Sean, his dad died very young, and I always wonder, like, what was that upbringing like, Jamie? Was it were you treated any differently to the rest of the kids, or did you just, I guess you knew no different?
Yeah, no, look, it was not much different for me really, on certain days like Father's Day there or something like that, when your friends are going somewhere with their dads, that was kind of the main thing where you felt like you were missing out. But no, look, my mum was great, and she never really let me get too down. She was always there to cheer me up and pick us up, but look, she's great, and she's done so much for us all, and forever thankful really.
I guess he'd be, like days like Sunday, he'd be uber proud of you.
Please God, anyway, hopefully.
And did you feel pressure when you started out as a jockey, given that he had a successful career and had won a national, or was that in any way present when you're riding and deciding to ride and making breakthroughs?
Not really, no. Look, it was kind of more of I knew people were going to know me a little bit more than a kid just starting out, but I never really felt pressure or anything. You know, it was just kind of take it how it was, and if people know you did do. But no, I never felt really much pressure.
You mentioned he won an Irish national, obviously a national hunt jockey. You're a flat jockey. Is that your intention is to be a flat jockey? That's it now for you, or will you ever consider being a national hunt? Or obviously the lifestyles of the two are quite different. So
no, I think at the moment it's going to be staying on the flat. You know, I'm probably too light to be going over jumps, but look, I've plenty of interest in the flat racing more than I would in the jump racing. So I'm happy enough to stay on the ground anyway.
How was your weight?
Good, yeah, I was 7:13 there today, so I've 8 stone in the last today in Bellewstown. But no, it's handy enough. I wouldn't have to sweat or waste, which is a big help.
Just looking at Bellewstown, is it like Bellewstown? When was the first time you were in Bellewstown, Jamie?
When I rode my first winner, I think that was the first day I was there and first ride I had.
And like so, I just think it's remarkable how strong Irish racing is. So Bellewstown will be considered this like fun summer track. It's a bit of an idiosyncratic track. Yet you're looking at the maiden yesterday where there was word for Gilroy's newcomer who finished second to a horse of Joseph O'Brien's with serious form, who 2 years ago won the same race with Pretty Gorgeous. And you're like, oh, these maidens even at Bellewstown and like even Roscommon and these provincial tracks, just like the standards in Irish racing seem so high, like from in so depth as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, it just shows how strong Irish racing is. You know, everyone's having to bring their best horses to win these maidens, and no matter where you go, kind of one or two are going to show up anyway. You know, but look, Irish racing is just so strong, and there's so many horses over here that are well capable of winning races. You know.
One last kind of line of questioning for me. I have a vague understanding now after doing this for 5 or 6 years of how the apprenticeship works. As you write out your claim over jumps, is it exactly the same in the flat game?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, it's 95 winners to write out your claim and become a professional. I think it's similar enough on the jumps, yeah.
You were a while to go to the thing. Like, I think claimers are definitely in fashion, Jamie. In that, like, when people see your claim and you win a double at the Curragh, one of the biggest days of the year, like that does definitely help. And then I guess it's Kevin's job to kind of manage it.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, Kevin would be good at that. You know, he'd want you riding at them big meetings. You know, and you'd mind your claim a bit then over the winter in Dundalk. But look, the claim is a huge help, especially on big weekends when lads are looking to claim off low weights or heavyweights. You know, so the 7-pound claim is definitely a big help to me, and hopefully I can hold on to it for a bit longer. It
diminishes, obviously. You don't go from 7 to 0. So how does it go on the flat from 7 to 5?
5, 3, 0.
Right.
Yeah, and what you get 3 or 10, Jamie, and then it's just incremental from there.
I think so, yeah.
So you're how many winners to your 5?
I'm 13 at the moment. I think it's 35 till you get down to 5. So
you'll be at that probably the most popular time maybe in your life. It'll be basically from here on until 5 anyway.
Yeah, 7 pounds and 5 is kind of the best time for apprentices. When you get down to 3, it can be a bit hard, and lads seem to kind of get quiet, you know, because trainers are going to think if you can claim 3, you might as well, you know, use a jockey. So when you 5 and 7 pounds is the best time of your career as an apprentice.
It's such a weird system, isn't it, where you're like super valuable for a period of time, and then after you've proven yourself able to win these races,
that's
they're like, no,
actually
don't really want you.
Yeah, it's funny, like, because you just see, like, when even the 3 pounds is interesting because it's still 3 pounds, but it's interesting you say that, Jamie. You're like, well, sure, why can't I use it as professional at that rate?
Yeah, it's just some owners and trainers find that if they can take 3 off, they might as well use a professional jockey. You know, there's not much difference. But when it comes to the 5 and 7, it's a bit more of weight. But that just seems to be the way it is. You know.
Just in relation to it, like, do you know much about Chartach from at home? The 2-year-old Invincible Spirit that won on Saturday.
Yeah, I've sat on him a few times. Yeah, I haven't ridden him any work now or anything, just canters. But yeah, he's a nice horse.
It was a mad day at Curragh because this horse was 3s and 7 to 2 in the morning, and I thought he was definitely worth the bet because he was unexposed. You go to the track, he's 10 to 1, and I was sort of saying to you lads, I am backing this, but I presume my money is gone because this drift, and I brought me back to when we were talking to Johnny Murtagh last week. I think he was a small bit worried that the horse were a bit in and out, but did you have a bit of kind of stable confidence in him going into the race?
Well, myself, as I said, I hadn't ridden him much, but from talking to Ben and Johnny, they were very confident with him, and he seemed to be in good order. But Ben's always liked him, and I think he's ridden him nearly all his bits of work. But Ben thinks he's a nice horse, and a couple of weeks ago he said to me that he'd make up into a group horse, so he was right anyway.
Ben's not wrong. Before my last looking for information tipping type thing here is a horse called Lemon Ice at Naas tomorrow. Do you know much about her?
I wouldn't have said on her much either. No.
That's a you can read into that what you want anyway. I think she's a very interesting horse tomorrow at Naas anyway.
Jamie, the apprenticeship, to finish that off, is there a time frame in your head where you're like, my plan is 2 years, 3 years, I'll be a professional, and at that stage I'll be ready to kick on, and I'll expect a little bit of a downturn or a short period where I might not be getting the best horses, but I'm going to prove myself through that. What's your vision for how that all folds out over the next couple of years?
At the moment, really, it's just kind of focusing on now, really, more than the future. You kind of have to take every day as it comes. But look, obviously, I know it's when you get down to the tree, it can be hard. But at the moment, it's just focusing on keep trying to improve. And my biggest goal yet is to get down to the 5. That's the next target anyway.
Right, and is that like a 2022 target, or if that happened in the middle of next year, you think that'll be okay as well, or what's in your head? Is there a clock for that?
Well, coming into the year, I said if I got down to the 5 this year, it would be great.
Right.
I have a bit to go yet, but if I came into the season starting with the 7 again next year, I wouldn't be too upset,
Yeah, well, if you keep banging in the winners the way you are at the moment, then it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Safe to say if he's riding for Johnny Feen, just back it, I think.
Yeah, all right. Jamie Powell, congratulations on a brilliant weekend last weekend, and also on being an OWLAD now that you're handing out the awards instead of receiving them at race.
Next thing you'll be 40, Jamie. I tell you, Jamie, it goes by very fast, and I remember when I was in school and the principal was saying these are the best days of your life, and we didn't believe him. But I'll definitely believe me when I say it goes by fast, and enjoy yourself.
Old man Johnny Ward. Here, you've got the Royal Ascot gear on. Were you over there?
I went over last year, with one of Johnny's horses. No, it was a great experience.
Next year you'll be riding there.
The pomp and circumstance,
Please God.
Yeah. Well, listen, congratulations. Great to have you with us, Jamie. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Thanks very much. Thanks, lad.
That's Apprentice jockey
Friday night.
Jamie Powell there.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
Yeah, this is Friday Night Racing, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie, and the hashtag is every racing moment. This week, Tote have announced their plans for the 2022 Galway races, which include sponsoring the Tote Galway Plate for the 13th consecutive year on Wednesday the 27th of July, along with a full supporting card of Tote sponsored races. Tote will also recognise the contribution made by stable staff to racing by sponsoring the Stable Staff Canteen for all 7 days of the Galway races. And this weekend sees more Tote sponsored racing, including today's Tote Handicap Hurdle at Wexford and 4 races on the card at Tramore this Sunday. The sunny southeast is where the hotbed of racing is going to be this weekend. Just let's talk a bit about the Derby. I've been warning you, be careful what you wish for, Johnny. And then the English Raiders come over and they took our jabs. I mean,
well, thankfully Westover did come over, because it made it into an interesting race, and he was a very impressive winner of what was probably a sort of an average Derby. The Irish Derby's in definitely an interesting place. Alan Sweetman, who will be one of the respected kind of judges in the press room, such as it's in an anachronistic term nowadays to an extent. He wrote a piece in the Race Post that they need to reduce the Derby to 10 furlongs, which was a thought-provoking piece. I'm actually a bit of a traditionalist, and I like the distance of the race, but it is slightly in no man's land at the moment. If Tuesday hadn't been supplemented, it would have been a poor Irish Derby, but we've become used to that, unfortunately.
Why does Alan Sweetman think the race needs to be shorter?
Essentially because it's just getting down the track of not attracting overseas horses, and it's to do with the fact that a mile and a half on your CV in terms of your stallion prospects isn't what it used to be. And if you look at he mentioned that he did a follow-on piece this week, and he was saying like how Sadler as well has produced all these brilliant middle distance horses, but Sadler as well as himself never actually won over a mile and a half. And if you were to bring the race back to a mile and two, it's a different prospect. I think as a stallion, a mile and two and a mile and four is a distinction. And Brendan Duke Jr. made an interesting kind of thesis about it, in the sense that you could win the Newmarket Guineas, then go to Epsom and win the Derby, and then come back to the Irish Derby for a triple crown over the mile and two that would do no harm whatever to your stallion prospects. Whereas the triple crown itself is completely anachronistic, because the Ledger is a long time away and it's over a mile and six. And once you go down the route of winning over a mile and six, you're a national hunt stallion, basically. If you're a Derby winner, most Derby winners do not make good stallions, but if you're a Derby winner, you're still, in theory, you're going to be a flat stallion. And the Irish Derby has slipped down the order in terms of its pecking in the world order of races. And the problem is, like, we had a roadshow last week and we were looking back at Monjou coming over and Dalacani and these great French horses. It doesn't happen anymore. So Vadini,
Is the prize money not enough to?
No, it's not. Like I don't think prize money at that level really matters. The people are extremely wealthy. It's more like the prize money is fine, but like it's grand you and me debating whether we go for a $500,000 race or a 750 grand race. Like these are owner breeders, or they're like extremely wealthy people like Godolphin or Coolmore, and they're thinking the bottom line is down the line, not the prize money. Like prize money is not a reason in Ireland. Or if we want to go down the road of the Saudis and have like obscene prize purses of 20 million for races sponsored by the government, that's fine, but we're not going to do that. So we have to look at other ways. And I thought it was interesting because the Curragh is a fantastic racetrack. It's a far easier track than Epsom to get a horse to get balanced and all that. But there isn't that much I think the Curragh can do. It's just sandwiched between. The French Derby went back to mile and two. That's the elephant in the room here.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily come over anymore. What's that?
From what?
From the mile and a half. So once that happened, and you can say tradition is tradition, but there isn't actually a 3-year-old mile and two Group 1 in Ireland or Britain at all. So it will be a new race. And if we
not just have a big race that goes over a mile and two, I mean,
the Coral Eclipse tomorrow is obviously the first mile and two, but that's open to older horses. I think there might be 1, 2 or 3-year-old in the race tomorrow. I on the balance think it's well worth considering, and I don't know how the powers that be look into that, and it would be a big move. Counter to the tradition of the Derby, which has been over a mile and a half for so long, but I'm not sure what the Curragh can do otherwise. And only for Tuesday being supplemented, that was a terrible Irish Derby. She made it a very interesting one. She didn't run a great race, but we need something, because the English winners don't come over anymore.
Is partly that Luxembourg was injured as well, and so therefore the best horse from O'Brien wasn't there, and so
and he didn't run a single colt. I think that was for the first time in 25 odd years. So the implication being that his horses just aren't as good, and Luxembourg is the main one, and he's injured. That's a fair point. But I was thinking there, like the Galileo, Aidan's middle distance. Like there's no Irish horse in the Eclipse tomorrow, which is a bit strange. So we don't have any mile and two horse who's deemed good enough to win it or run it at the moment. And Aidan's influence is going to change now because Galileo is dead. And the Galileo influence will be there on the dam side and through his sons like Frankel and so on. But Aidan will not have access to these Galileo Derby horses every year. And I can foresee a situation where Irish racing is going to change, and Aidan's dominance is going to definitely be eroded, possibly by Joseph. Well, definitely by Joseph, but also by trainers like Johnny Murtagh and Ger Lyons, who Ger had a treble, I think, on the Friday, the Curragh. Johnny Murtagh won a Group 1. And I think because Galileo is dead, that means that Aidan is not going to be as dominant anymore, because there literally was only one Galileo.
Right.
So I think that's going to be...
all the Galileo offspring are going to start popping out their sprogs. And
yeah, but they're not... I don't think Galileo... I'm not even sure Frankel is... Frankel probably
That's
won't
a
be...
technical term.
Yeah, Frankel will probably get unbelievable racehorses, but in terms of their mind and their mentality, they're definitely, by and large, they're not as straightforward as Galileo horses, and that matters for so much. The rest of his sons have done okay at stud. You look at Australia, Glen Eagles, Churchill, but none of them is going to be an absolute superstar. I think we can say that for certain. None of them is going to be a Galileo. So Frankel will get really good horses. Aidan doesn't have many Frankels, and you see the Frankel horse coming over, romping home in the Irish Derby. So I think the narrative is going to change. And like Aidan's 51 or whatever, he's still young and fresh. Looks
another 40 years to go.
God, yeah. I mean, he could be going on for a long time. But I do see the narrative changing. And with all due respect, Aidan O'Brien says, like, we don't want to win every race. I think it won't be a bad thing for Irish racing if the bounty is shared and if there's somebody other than Coolmore winning races.
Yeah, I mean, it'll certainly lead to more competition. The fact that an English raider comes over and wins the Derby, do a lot of other English trainers and owners start thinking, actually, maybe we could start going back there? Or is that
Possibly,
one-off
yeah.
specific to the fact that a weak Irish crop, opportunistic, let's go? And
yeah, like Desert Crown would have. I mean, he may not have won the Derby, but he would have been an outstanding favourite. But they have King George aspirations for him, and I think since 2004, a British trained winner of the Epsom Derby hasn't run at all in Ireland. So the horses that win the Derby and come over here are invariably like Harzand or Camelot or whatever Irish trained horses. But we did have an unlucky in running third, and the big thing about this was as well, everyone thought the Curragh is going to suit Westover a lot more than Epsom, and that's I think it has to be pushing that. And maybe the Curragh needs to, like, Brian Kavanagh has an interesting job at this stage of his career. I mean, it's kind of, he's had a long run of at the top of Irish racing. The Curragh is a different challenge, and it's like something of a free hit for him at this stage of his career because he's had a great career in racing.
sure, he doesn't feel that, but go on.
No, but you know what I mean. It's not
Yeah.
like so that I'm not saying that's a caveat, but Brian needs to. And I was speaking to him this week. I think generally he was happy with the Derby, but the Curragh, like the money that was spent on it, it needs to get people back, and it needs to get the horses back from England and France. And Pat Keogh was massive. Like Pat Keogh used to put in the air miles trying to get Japanese horses over for the Champion Stakes. So I think Brian's challenge is to get those overseas runners. And also just get local people to go to the Curragh, because it has fallen off the local map to some extent.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, while it's disappointing that an Irish horse doesn't end up winning, it's in the long run going to be better because you can build up a rivalry, you can have more stories, we'll now have more interest in what racing is happening across.
Westover was ridden by Colin Keane, right? Colin Keane is a popular lad in racing. Like, he would have gotten more of a cheer than Aidan O'Brien winning the race again, being honest. Because, he's trained by Rafe Beckett. He's running for Khaled Abdullah. It's not like he's running for tiny connections. But it was Colin Keane riding his first Derby winner. And there was no lack of atmosphere when Westover crossed the line, because I'd say half the crowd had him backed. And let's be honest, like, money talks. So it's like Aidan O'Brien winning or not winning the Derby again, like, it doesn't really matter. And Aidan will probably admit that himself. So it's like,
but one of the other Irish trainers coming through and winning the Derby would be great.
It would, and it will happen.
Yeah.
It will happen. Pisbadil finished second for Dunica, so yeah, it will happen. But nobody wants Kilkenny winning the hurling every year. Some people may want it to be Clare, but you know what I mean? We want the shares. People got fed up of Gaelic football because Dublin won it every year. So we don't want Aidan.
With my very limited knowledge, I was looking at the odds pre-race going, Pisbadil seems very overpriced here. One bad run and all of a sudden, like, the previous stuff that led to everybody thinking and crowning him, this is an amazing horse, all of a sudden was like, now, ran grand to finish second, ran very well to finish second, obviously, but I thought he was like started about 10, 12 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting race book because, like, Tuesday probably didn't deserve to be as short as she was. I mean, she was an Oaks winner, which was probably a lucky Oaks winner. But we did an On The Wire podcast before it, and 3 of us tipped the winner, and 2 of them went for Pisbadil, and hardly anyone was tipping Westover, despite the fact, like, he was massively eye-catching in the Derby, and he was coming over. Colin Keane was riding him, and Colin Keane gave him a super ride. It was like literally after a furlong, you were like, this horse is just going to win.
Yeah.
And
flawless.
It was I was delighted for Colin, but I will reiterate, I think racing has challenges going forward in terms of attracting people to the races, because people's attention span is short, and it is what it is. But I really, really enjoyed the Curragh, I have to say, and I thought it was worthy of the day.
All right, that's good. Anything this weekend for us?
The Eclipse tomorrow is, as I said, a fascinating race. Vidani coming over from France, horse by Churchill, who's kind of the signature Churchill horse so far in terms of a son of Galileo at stud. I think he's 6-4 favourite. Lord North is running. He was one of Frankie's horror stories where he couldn't get the blinds off him in Ascot. He'd the worst Ascot pretty much imaginable. So he's one of a Mishriff running as well. Fascinating 6-horse race, and you keep an eye out on that Murta horse in the Curragh, particularly if there's any money for it. And he's Lemon Ice, and she's one of these horses. If you back her tomorrow and she doesn't win, don't lose the faith.
All right.
What, you don't,
I've heard that before from you, Jenny. Don't lose the faith. 3 years later, we're still back at horses. No, this one's coming good. Don't worry. It's definitely coming good.
You're literally making that up.
I don't think so.
You're
Friday
making
Night
it up.
Racing and Off the Ball brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. Johnny, good stuff. We'll see you next
Have a good
Friday
weekend, Ger.
at 3 o'clock on all of OTV social channels, and then of course at 8 o'clock on Off the Ball and News Talk.